look, it's the big picture. Let's say you totally understand all of the elements of genres that were in the other presentation. This is more of the overall description, understanding, life cycle, an explanation of genres as a concept. All right. I have no idea how long this is going to be. I've already tried to do it and it was ending up being 13 minutes. So if you end up watching this at time and a half on YouTube or whatever, I'm not going to be insulted. I totally understand. With that caveat, let's get moving. Okay. Also, because this is on PowerSchool, that actually links you to the explanation of the 6 different characteristics of genres. And the end. Okay. First things first, we end up with genres as a concept because somebody makes a cool film and then other people make more cool films that are similar to it. That's basically about it. There isn't any such thing as like a genre tree that somebody plucks a genre off of. There are a lot of websites where people come up with their own specific names for genres and then proclaim to know all of the rules. Well, basically, you know as much as they do. And so this presentation is your chance to say, yeah, well, I've defined this genre, I've picked out these films, and I'm super insightful, and listen to me now. So feel free to make your own BuzzFeed article or Cinefix, video to be smart and smug afterwards. Okay. First of all, let's talk about the life cycle of a genre. As I said before, somebody comes up with a really great idea, and either they make a couple more films that resemble it, or a couple other people make interesting films with it. And so we're at the inception, the birth of a genre. We call it the primitive stage, or at least I'm calling it the primitive stage. Benel St. Margaret's film studies classes are calling it the primitive stage of genre development. So they're just brand new. We've got the earliest examples. When I say the ideas and the conventions are still in flux, what I mean is they haven't necessarily set hard and fast rules. So they might have different character types or some mildly different plot patterns, or the mood is going to be a little bit different, or you can see that one type of character isn't as emphasized as it ends up being later on in the thing, or there's not a song and dance number in every one of them when there's about to be. So there's going to be a little bit difference. And when I say primitive, I really do mean kind of early films in that genre, because I do. Okay. The next stage is sort of like when a genre is in its college years / young adult years. The classic stage, where if you want to say, oh man, the classic film noir is this thing, or like the classic Hitchcock movie, you're talking about kind of a number of films where they've really, the genres, or the filmmakers have really hit their stride. There are pretty much, there are elements that you know that you're going to have a chance to see in them. The golden age, the perfect examples of, the perfect specimens of, etc., etc. And audiences know what to expect, but there's still interesting films coming out, so that there are unexpected elements. There's still, they haven't been played out yet, right? People are still asking for, whether they know it or not, more films of that type. Now, one of the things that can happen, you can only stay in that classic stage for so long. Like, I think the Avenger movie, the Marvel type movie, genre movie, which really only Marvel is doing, but whatevs. You can see with the last couple of variations that the we're going to save the world element of it, really, you can only save the world so many times, right? So that I don't know that they ever tipped into one of the next two categories, but a genre doesn't necessarily stick around forever or stay in the classic stage forever. What often happens is one of two things. Either it becomes a little bit ridiculous, or somebody comes in and blows our minds with something super creative. So let's look at the first one first. Parody often is the next thing that happens. That basically people know what the patterns are, people have come to expect a little thing. Maybe there are no good ideas, or there are just a bunch of crappy copies of it. Where the people who originally kind of were making the cool films had something to say, but now they're a bunch of copycats. Anyway, what happens is the very conventions that define the genre become the things that are made fun of in the genre movies. All of the scary movies, and the fact that there's a parody basically of any successful horror film, then it'll show up in one of the scary movie ones. That's obviously a parody of the horror genre. The first Scream was really an amazing film because Wes Craven himself was one of the directors for the golden age of horror. The whole Freddy and Jason and Halloween and all of those slasher films of the mid 80s to early 90s, let's say, or basically around the 80s. And then Wes Craven comes back and actually has this phenomenal, he really parodies some of his own things. You know, you have characters saying, like, I better not go outside, right? Okay. So, he was both talking about the formula, using the formula, but also surprising people with the formula. The other reason why Scream itself is so interesting is because it's part parody of making fun of it, but also part revisionist, which is sort of the last phase where people take a new look at the conventions, or where people are doing something transformative with the genre itself. If you look at the recent spate of Tarantino's Westerns, you get a good idea of how Quentin Tarantino is really a genius in terms of doing justice to the myth of the Western, doing justice to kind of the outsider or the individual who has principles and comes and kicks ass, pardon my language, while wearing a cowboy hat. There's something there, but at the same time, it's also transforming and surprising us, and either updating the conventions or, again, using those recognizable pieces in a way that's unexpected. Okay, I'm going to pause, and then I'll do part 2 of this because I have no idea how long it is, but I think it's pretty long.